Welcome to the Buns on the Run Super Bowl edition. In our house, we love sports. We like basketball, track and field, gymnastics, almost any sport, but most especially football, and most especially my beloved Green Bay Packers. Unfortunately, the Packers didn't make the playoffs, but it's time for our Super Bowl Sunday party, and we are going to make some super snacks, some super sweets, and some super sandwiches. Let's get started. When you're throwing a football party, one of the things you need to think about is the variety of foods that you're going to serve. You want to have something sweet, you want something crunchy and salty, and then typically football foods, tailgate party foods are very hearty and protein heavy. And so I'm going to try and take something that can be very heavy and messy and turn it into something more game watching friendly. I don't want people spilling a big sloppy chili dog all over my couch. So we're going to make chili cheese dog cups. And the first thing I've got is a pound of ground beef. And I have a package, it's a 12-ounce package of Little Smokies. I have a half of a medium onion diced up very fine. The other half I'm saving for topping later. I've got just one stalk of celery diced up very fine as well. A tablespoon of minced garlic, a half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, a half a teaspoon of hot sauce. I've got some tomato paste. Now, if you don't buy tomato paste in the tubes, it's wonderful because I find I never use up that whole little can in one recipe, so I can just take as much as I want. And then I've got some crushed tomatoes, a bottle of beer. You don't want a Pilsner, you don't want a lager, you want an ale. You want that flavor as well as the alcohol, which will help tenderize the meat. And then I've got some low sodium beef broth. I want low sodium so I can control the amount of salt in this dish, especially because the Smokies do have salt in them. I've got an ancho chili pepper, and I'm going to break the stem off and shake the seeds out and then throw this in whole. I've got some oregano, and then I've got my spices. I got my pot nice and hot. We're going to start by browning our ground beef. I'm just going to chop it up quickly. The beef is browning up nicely. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. And I want to brown the tomato paste as well. It helps bring out that deep, rich flavor that tomato paste has that other canned tomato products don't have. So I'm doing that first. Just give it about 30 seconds or so to draw out some more of that flavor. And you can see that I've chopped up the beef fairly fine. I don't do this regularly with chili. I typically would leave it a little chunkier, but this is kind of a riff on a chili dog or a coney dog. And normally with chili, I use 1 pound of ground beef and 1 pound of ground pork. But today we're substituting those Little Smokies. Next, I'm going to add our onion. And our celery. And just give that a minute to start getting soft and translucent. Now I'm going to add the garlic and get that sauteing as well. And to that, I am going to add the entire bottle of beer. Go with a good beer. As it cooks down, it's going to concentrate that flavor, so you don't want to go cheap on this one. And as I said, I use an ale. I find that lagers, pilsners are just too weak in flavor. And I want this chili full of flavor. I'm going to give that about 5 minutes for the beer to cook down and cook off most of the alcohol. You can see that the chili's simmering away. I'm going to throw in my ancho pepper. I'm just going to take off the top. Throw in the pieces that fell. I'm going to shake out the seeds as best as I can. The seeds will bring probably more heat to this chili than my husband would be able to tolerate. So I'm really just looking for the smokiness of this pepper. And you notice I didn't pre-soften it. I didn't chop it up. It's basically going to dissolve into the chili. And you can see there's the head of the chili. I don't want the stem part. So I'm just breaking it off in bits around there. Trying to use as much of it as I can. Not waste, but not throw that stem in there either. Okay. So there you can see how many seeds were inside that pepper. That's quite a bit of seeds, quite a bit of heat. If you like it hotter, go ahead and leave it in. Just take the stem portion off. At the beginning of the chili, I used a wooden spoon because it's very firm. It helps to chop up that ground beef very finely, but I don't want to stain my wooden spoon with the tomato. So from this point on, I'm going with a spatula. And you can see that the beer has cooked down considerably. So now I'm going to add a cup of that low sodium beef stock. My half teaspoon of Worcestershire. My half teaspoon of hot sauce. I used sriracha, but you can use whatever you have in the fridge, your favorite. And I'm going to throw in my bay leaf. Going to toss in all my spices. Sorry about that. And a good palmful of oregano. Now, I like to use Mexican oregano. I guess it's just because of tradition. But you can put in whatever oregano you have around. I like to crush it to break it up into finer pieces and also to release the essential oils in there. And while that's simmering away, I'm going to turn that up a bit. I'm going to add our crushed tomatoes. These are Italian finely chopped tomatoes is what it says on the package. But you can use canned crushed tomatoes or whatever you have around. This is a 26-ounce carton, and I'm going to put the whole thing in there. I like these because it's almost like tomato sauce with just a very fine texture from the chopped tomatoes. And I like it also because it's very fresh tasting to go against all those spices. We want to kind of balance this out a bit. So you can see right now it's very thin. Obviously, this would make a mess. We're going to let it cook down and simmer for at least an hour until it gets very thick, thicker than normal chili because of the way I'm going to use it. Be back in a minute. So I cleaned up my dishes from my prep. You might be wondering, what about the little smokies? Little smokies are a fully cooked sausage. They don't need to do anything but heat up in the chili. So they're actually going to go in towards the end, long enough that they can absorb some of the flavor of the chili, but not so long as they start getting dried out and kind of tough from overcooking. The chili has gotten nice and thick, so I'm going to go ahead and add my chopped up little smokies and just have them in there long enough to get heated through and absorb some of that chili flavor. And then this is ready to go.